To my left, the brand spanking new 2016 Nissan Maxima, and to my right, a car that on the surface may not appear to compete with it. It is the 2015 Acura TLX. Now Nissan says that this is a four-door sports car, so they've given us this to compare it to. The question is, which of these is a real four-door sports car? They're remarkably similar. Under the hood, they both have 3.5 liter V6s. They both have front-wheel drive. This though has a CVT, whereas this has a 9-speed automatic transmission. So let's take them for a quick ride and see which of these two is the real four-door sports car. And that is coming up right now on the Fast Lane Car. See if you can focus on this, the start-stop button right here. It actually pulses like a heartbeat. Very much like a Bentley. Oh yeah! Right to the red line. I don't want to do that too much. It's probably not great for the engine. There's also a normal and a sport button. And of course, a four-door sports car has to be in sport mode. I like this too. It's apparently like the crown of a fine bespoked watch. At least that's what this grooving and the feel this is supposed to be like. Does it feel like an expensive watch? Yeah, you know, some of it's marketing and some of it's real. I'm kind of two minds when it comes to augmented engine note in the cabin. It's kind of like breast augmentation. I'd prefer the real thing, but you know, it's not bad. I can get used to it. Now let's keep this in mind. This car weighs just under 3,500 pounds, and if you're really going to create a true sports car, you'd have to have a lot less weight. Now Nissan will tell you that they have taken weight out of this car by using high-strength steel, but nevertheless, it's still a relatively hefty car to push around these very tight Kentucky roads. What is amazing is that there is very little push, in other words, understeer, for a car where a lot of the weight sits in front of the cabin, because it is obviously a pretty big 3.5 liter, 300 horsepower engine sitting up there. It does feel relatively neutral. My biggest complaint would be that the steering is relatively numb. The sport button tightens it up, makes it a little bit heavier, but it doesn't provide any more steering feel, and that's because it's electric. And electric steering is really good for fuel economy, but not great for performance. A CVT, really great for fuel economy, not great for performance. Nissan has done an incredible job in minimizing kind of that rubber band effect, so when I step on the throttle, it doesn't feel like there's a rubber band that's pulling me forward as much as it did in the past, but nevertheless, there isn't that kind of crisp shift that you'd want in a sports car. So I'm holding this car up to a standard that Nissan has set for itself, a four-door sports car. And maybe I'm being a little unfair, because let's face it, you can get this car in a lot of different configurations, and I happen to be in the SR version, which is the sportiest of those, and many people are going to use this as a regular family sedan. And for those people, getting 25 mpg combined on the highway, having a very roomy car, having a beautiful interior, that is really all they care about. So I've got the Acura's sticker right here, and I've got the numbers, and they're remarkably similar. So this car stickers at $40,295, which is less than $2,000 more than the Maxima that we just drove. It also gets 25 mpg combined, which is the same as the Maxima that we just drove. It has a 3.5 liter V6, so it is a Maxima, and this engine puts out 290 horsepower. The Maxima's puts out 300, so 10 horsepower more. The biggest difference, of course, is in the transmission. This has a 9-speed push-button automatic with paddle shifters, whereas the Maxima has a CVT with paddle shifters. So there is a very significant difference. In terms of how they drive, well, let's take this car for a ride right now and compare it directly to the Maxima. Unlike the Maxima CVT, when you put it in sport mode, it doesn't emulate a traditional transmission. This is a traditional transmission, just with a lot more gears. Now, immediately I can tell you that, just from a handling standpoint, this car is a little bit better. It's smaller, steering has a little bit more feedback, and I think there's a better sense of visibility out of it. You kind of sit up higher. It doesn't feel quite as jet canopy-like, which in some instances is not great when you want to be able to see where the corners of the car are. On the interior, this is a luxury vehicle, whereas the Maxima is a much more mainstream vehicle. But you know what? I like the Maxima's interior better. Not that there's anything wrong with this. This is very Honda-esque. Honda-esque. I guess that's a word, Honda-esque. But the Maxima just takes it to that next level. It looks like they've really went and designed it. Like there's a lot of sense of detail. This is very elegant, but it doesn't have kind of that sense of occasion that you do when you're sitting in the Maxima. Now, in terms of hustling it around these tight Tennessee turns, I'm gonna have to give the upper hand to the Acura. It just is a little bit sharper. It's a little bit more responsive. It's a little bit more fun to drive. That doesn't mean that the Maxima isn't all of those things. It is. So which one is a four-door sports car? That's easy. The Acura, if there is such a thing, would be the four-door sports car. But the Nissan is an exceptional full-size family sedan value that could pretend to be a sports car if and when you take it out into the twisty bits near your neighborhood. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. Check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, real-world reviews. Remember, subscribe for a new car video every day. Every day. And what the sport button does is it firms up the steering. It changes the throttle tip-in so that it's a little bit more responsive, and basically gives it a little bit more of a dynamic sports character. It also has the CVT emulate, you can hear it there, a traditional transmission. So instead of going, it's going, as much as Nissan wants this to be a four-door sports car, I think it's actually a very, very competent highway cruiser. So,
in about 1 mile, exit number 196 on your right.
There's a thing that every time we start rolling, something happens, and we were just shooting the car in a very abandoned state park when a train rolled by. All right, let's try this again. Is this brand spanking new 2016 Nissan Maxima a four-door sports car?